honey, you need to get some sleep. You have a father-son's cricket game at 7:30 in the morning. We can talk about what we need to do about this tomorrow. Those words came from my wife, Kim, in February of 2012, just hours after she'd been diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. Her calm response to devastating news taught me something profound about courage, my friends. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, and how it changed my approach with challenges in my life. When most people think about courage, they imagine dramatic acts of heroism, firefighters running into burning buildings, soldiers in combat, entrepreneurs making bold business moves. But real courage often looks much quieter. Sometimes it's showing up in your child's cricket game when your world has just been turned upside down. Sometimes it's choosing to respond rather than react when life has hit you with the worst. I mean, that February morning in 2012 changed everything that I thought I knew about courage. I had just come home from a 4-day business trip in Asia to find my wife literally doubled in size. The shock of seeing her condition in that moment was so devastating that I couldn't believe my eyes. I mean, learning about her diagnosis was obviously the worst thing ever. As humans, especially in times of such crises, we tend to be self-absorbed. What do you think my immediate thoughts were? How am I going to live without her? Who's going to take care of the kids? What happens when she dies? Why is this fair? Why us? Why me? And a quick Google search showed me that she only had 12 weeks to live. But my wife Kim's response taught me something I'll never forget. In the face of her own mortality, she was still thinking about what mattered most. In that moment, our children having some kind of normalcy, our family staying connected. Go play cricket with the boys, she said calmly, as if nothing had happened. Guess what? I was on that cricket field. In that moment, I understood something fundamental about courage. It's not the absence of fear. It's choosing to act from love even where fear is present. So I love talking about this fear-courage spectrum. Here's what I've learned about courage through that experience and the years since then. Fear and courage exist on the same spectrum. You can't have one without the other. I mean, there's no fear that can't be addressed with courage. And if you have courage, it's because you have fear. So it's like a continuum. One side is fear, the other side is courage. They're not opposites fighting each other. They're actually different expressions of the same energy. This was such a revelation for me. For years, I thought courage meant not being afraid. I thought successful people, bold leaders, confident entrepreneurs, big bosses that I work with, they just didn't feel fear the way the rest of us do. When Kim was fighting cancer, I felt every possible fear you can imagine. Fear of loss, fear of being alone, fear of not being able to do enough for my children, be a mother for the children, obviously not, fear of a future that I could not imagine. But I also discovered that the more I allowed myself to feel those fears fully, feel them fully, not push them down, push them away, not pretending they didn't exist, the more I could access courage. So the key insight for me that I want to share is that courage is not about eliminating fear. It's about changing your relationship with it. Most people try to push fear away, pretending it doesn't exist, or let it paralyze them completely where you go into inaction. But when you understand that fear and courage are on the same spectrum, you realize that fear is actually pointing you towards where courage is needed most. So let's talk about events or situations and how we respond to them. One of the most powerful frameworks that I have discovered for building courage is understanding that events themselves are neutral. We were caught in the tsunami. The tsunami wasn't trying to get us. It was just a neutral event. It's what meaning we gave it. What gives them meaning, positive or negative, is the response we choose. Okay? Let me give you a simple but sort of transformative exercise. Draw 3 columns on a piece of paper. 3 columns. 1, events. 2, response. And 3, outcome. In the first column, write down defining life moments that have left deep impressions on your mind and perhaps your heart. These could be successes, failures, traumas, breakthroughs, or major transitions. In the second column, write down your response in that situation, in those events. Not what happened to you, but how you chose to respond. Did you withdraw? Did you engage? Did you blame something else? Did you take responsibility for it? Or did you react from fear? Or did you respond from courage? In the third column, write down the outcomes. that actually resulted from your responses. That's where all the revelation will take place. So when I did this exercise, I noticed clear patterns. So those events where I responded with courage, even when I was terrified, led me to experience growth, perhaps to deepen my relationships, and opportunities I never could have imagined showed up at my door. The events where I responded with fear or avoidance led to stagnation, regrets, missed opportunities. So the most profound realization was that the same event could have led to completely different outcomes based purely and solely on how I chose to respond. Let me give you another experience from my time when I left the big firm I used to work for, Morgan Stanley. The event was feeling betrayed by the firm's decision to renege on a promise that they had made to me about a certain business deal. Now, I could have responded with bitterness, staying in a situation that wasn't serving me while harboring resentment. Or I could have just simply responded with courage, using the disappointment as fuel to create something better for me. Building your courage muscle is so important because courage is like a muscle. It gets stronger with use, but most people wait for life or death situations to exercise it. Isn't it crazy that until you get a bad diagnosis is when you start doing things about it? That's like trying to run a marathon without even training. It makes no sense. But that's what we often do. I learned to build my courage muscle in smaller daily moments. That was my learning through that experience of 13 years ago. Speaking up in meetings when I disagreed with somebody, having difficult conversations with family members instead of avoiding them, making decisions based on my values when it was uncomfortable or unpopular. I know it's easier said than done, but truly, think about this. Write this down. Each time you choose courage over comfort, even in small ways, you're preparing for the bigger moments when courage would become essential. So when my wife was diagnosed, I had to draw on every ounce of courage that I had built over the years. Courage to hope when the statistics were horrible, devastating. Courage to be present with her pain without trying to fix it. Courage to keep living fully, even while facing the possibility of really a loss of your loved one. And more importantly, my children losing their mother. But here's what's interesting. The big moments of courage are not actually that different from small ones. They all require the same fundamental choice. Will I respond from love or act from fear? Here's what I'd like you to understand. Courage is not about being fearless. I'm not saying that at all. It's about being responsive rather than reactive, despite the existence of fear. So when something triggers your fear response, we have a choice. You can react from that fear, which usually leads to avoidance or aggression, or perhaps a shutdown. Or you can respond from courage, which means feeling the fear fully and choosing to act in spite of it. And that, as you would expect, requires practice. So every day we face moments where we can choose courage or comfort. The person who cuts you off in traffic, a difficult conversation you've been avoiding with a colleague, or maybe your spouse. The business idea that excites you but terrifies you at the same time. The relationship that needs attention but feels risky to address. So these aren't life or death situations, frankly, but they are courage building opportunities. So when you practice courage consistently in small moments, you develop the strength to access them in the big ones. I remember a specific example about 3 years after leaving Wall Street. I was building one of my first businesses and we had the opportunity to pitch a major client. The client could make or break our company. The night before the presentation, I was filled with doubt. Who was I to be doing this? I'd spent my career running, divisions at a big brand. And this was just me, entrepreneur. So I had a choice. I could approach the meeting from fear, trying to impress my client, prospect, pretending to be someone I wasn't, focusing on basically not screwing up. Or I could approach it from courage, showing up authentically, vulnerable, focusing on how we could serve them, trusting that my experience and passion would be enough. Well, I chose that courage. The meeting was not perfect, by all means, but it was pure, felt real, authentic. And that willingness to be real is what ultimately won us the business. When you start choosing courage more consistently, it causes a ripple effect, not just in your life, but in the lives of others around you. Your children start taking more risks because they see you modeling courage. Your team becomes more open to taking some chances with you. It's incredible. Your team becomes more innovative because you've created a culture where it's safe to fail. Your relationships deepen because you're willing to have the conversations that matter. So courage is contagious, But so is fear. Every moment, you're either contributing to a culture of courage or a culture of fear through the choices you make. Let's get practical here. Here's how you can start building your courage muscle. I call this the 3-area assessment. First, identify 3 areas where fear might be holding you back. 1, a situation or a person that consistently triggers you. Maybe it's a challenging family member or relationship with them, or a recurring conflict that you keep avoiding. 2, a conversation you know you need to have, but keep putting off. Perhaps it's setting boundaries with someone, addressing a performance issue, or sharing your feelings with someone important to you. Number 3, a dream or a goal that excites you, but also scares you at the same time. That could be starting a business, changing careers, writing a book, any aspiration that feels both thrilling and terrifying at the same time. For each of these 3 areas, now ask yourself, if I were to respond from courage rather than fear, what would I do differently? And then, to take matters further, let's do a weekly courage practice. Pick one, the one that feels most manageable, but still stretches you. And commit to taking one courageous action this week. It might be sending that email you've been putting off. Maybe having that honest conversation with a family member. The size of the action matters less than the fact that what you're choosing, is it out of comfort or is it out of courage? You're training that muscle if you do this out of courage. So the courage reset. Finally, you feel fear arising in any situation, try this simple process. You pause and take 3 deep breaths. Ask yourself, what is this fear trying to protect me from? Then ask, what could courage look like in this situation? And then take one small little action that's aligned with your courage, not comfort. Remember, the goal is not to eliminate fear. The goal is to act courageously despite the fear. Let me close with this. Kim fought cancer with incredible courage for 3 years before she passed. But the lessons she taught me about courage live on every day. The courage is about being open enough to let love guide your actions, even when fear is present. When you approach your challenges, your dreams, and your relationships from this space, in this place of courage, everything changes, my friend. Not because the external circumstances change, but because you change. And when you change, the entire world shifts for you. The beautiful thing about courage is that it's always available to you. In every moment, in every situation, you have the choice to lean forward, courage, or lean toward fear. That choice is one of the most powerful tools you have for creating the life that you truly want. Next week, I'm going to talk about the driving force behind all action and achievement, our energy. You'll discover why energy management is more important than what people call time management, and how to harness different types of energy to accelerate your results while enjoying the journey more. Until then, remember, fear and courage exist on the same spectrum, my friend. The choice of which end to lean toward is always yours. Thank you for joining me on Bold Conscious Connections. Stay bold and stay conscious.